Welcome back, and with us live now over the phone is His Excellency Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good morning, Ambassador Bayoumi.
Good morning, good morning.
How are you doing, sir? A good day to you.
How are you?
We are talking over the history of the U.S.-Egyptian relations and bond for years between the two countries. If you like to elaborate over this history and how far have we reached?
It is generally a positive relation for a simple reason that each side of the two countries know quite well that the other side is very important in its region and for the international peace and security. Even when we have some troubles in our relations, even when we cut the relations during the war of '67, there were messages between Gamal Abdel Nasser and the President of the United States. I here recall a very important book of John Foster Dulles, the famous foreign minister, saying that wherever Egypt is giving its alliance, we are sure that after all Egypt will choose the freedom and security and development of the world and itself. So, in general, it was a positive relation. But it has a serious development positively since President Saleh's time, when he chose the peace process, and he was really recognized and made by most of the leaders of the world. And then, since then, President Carter with President Sadat led the process of peace and negotiations in the Middle East. By that time, the Arab world was not happy with what we were doing, but Egypt, whenever it takes a position in its policy, who will differ with this? He will follow Egypt after 40 years. Here I give the example of the Americans and the NATO when they were against the recognition of Gamal Abdel Nasser to the Chinese Revolution 1956. Now China is the largest partner to the United States. Also, they were against the relation between Egypt and Cuba, Nasser and Castro. 2009, President Obama went and visited Cuba and finished this problem between Cuba and the United States. I hear stress in total confidence that whoever differed with the Egyptian policy, he followed it after 40 years. And as of the Americans, we are happy with the actual position. Our president visited the United States several times, whether to join the United Nations General Assembly annual meeting, or now it is a special visit to represent the African continent. And Egypt is a very good defender of the African cause, because Africa really is not a happy continent in the international relations. It is really paying to the developed countries much more than it receives from those countries. Amazing thing. So, coming back, our relation with the United States is in an excellent situation. I want to mention here that the American embassy in Cairo, Berlin, and Baghdad are the largest embassy of America in any place in the whole world. And I always say that the American embassy in Cairo is almost half of the Egyptian representation all over the world. This means that there is an interest, there is a sort of common interest between the two countries, and I hope it will go like that always.
Of course, inshallah. But also, in light of the U.S. African Summit U.S. African Leaders Summit that was held in Washington earlier and was attended by the head of state, His Excellency President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, and other world leaders, African leaders, and also President Joe Biden hosted them and gave a speech. How far have the participation of Egypt added to this the relation we're talking about?
Of course, Egypt has a long experience. We are the most represented country in Africa. Also, we are the most accepted face. We don't have bad history with Africa at all. We were there since the Pharaonic time. We went by boats on the western coast and on the eastern coast. I visited many African countries where, for example, his Royal King of Swaziland, in his pamphlet, tourist pamphlet, he is proud that he's coming from Pharaonic origin. In Cameroon, where I was ambassador there are tribes, they tell you that they are coming from Pharaonic origin, where some Egyptians through the River Nile and Central Africa and Chad, they came to Cameroon and established their position there. And if you visit this area of west of Cameroon, you will find some places where they're still building their houses on the shape of pyramids. So Egypt is very well accepted there because of the history, because we are white. They are proud that there are white Africans. Because we are black. Tutankhamun was a Nubian black, and it seems that there is a black civilization also. They like us because of the efforts of our Al-Azhar al-Sharif and the Eastern Church. Both of them are well presented in Africa. And of course, the whole relation is going quite well. I used to lecture at Nasser Academy to 30, 40 generals coming from 30, 40 countries all over Africa. And I can assure you, they love this country. They like whatever the relation is. And we are trying, of course, to strengthen our relation with Africa. That's why I am telling you this whole story, to realize that we can very well represent the African continent, and we have many ways and means and proposals in order to make the relation between Africa and any important country much more developed.
Right. Where do we see Egypt in the map of interests, I mean, of importance to the United States when it comes to strategic matters, economic partnerships, political partnerships? Where could Egypt be located in the future? Of course, Egypt has a leading role inside the continent. It's the core of the continent. But where is it located according to the United States?
Geographically and historically, we are in the middle of everything. And the good example, which I lived personally, it was our negotiation with Europe. Europe understands quite well that the role of Egypt in the negotiation between the Euro-Mediterranean countries is very important. And they realized carefully that while we were negotiating, we were asked to go to Syria, to Lebanon, to Morocco, to Tunisia, even to Libya, in order to exchange views and to take some lessons from the Egyptian experience. Later on, when Europe negotiated with the Gulf states, I was invited several times, and I invited also the head of the negotiators of the Gulf states. So every wise man in this world, whether in Europe or America, can understand the impact and the presence of Egypt in this whole area and in the international field. I don't want to miss telling that Egypt is a leading country in the group of 77, which is non-aligned countries, and the developed countries, which are, the name is 77, but they are 139 countries. It is the biggest voting group in the whole world, and thank God they are voting with us automatically. They believe in what we defend. They believe in our causes, defending the Arab world, defending the third world, defending Africa.
Right. In light of what we're speaking, do you think Egypt could be playing a very influential role in the coming future when it comes to some conflicts inside the region? For example, as we know, President Abdel Fattah Sisi in that particular summit met with leaders of American Jewish organizations, during which they probed the bilateral ties and issues of mutual concern. And there were talks about a settlement for the Palestinian cause that would represent a huge step in the history of the Middle East and completely change the region's critical reality. So if you like to elaborate, do you think Egypt can play that role?
The Palestinian question is in the core of our foreign policy, of course, and it is for us as Egyptians and diplomats. It's not a foreign policy. It is part of our national interest. And security of Egypt, it doesn't start at Rafah or Taba. It started at Lazikiya in Syria, and the history proves this. When the king of Egypt went to Lazikiya to fight against the Hyksos. So the Palestinian question is very important to us, but here I must confess that there are sort of groups in the United States are helping blindly Israel. But there are Jewish community where you heard yesterday that our president met with some Jewish leaders in the United States, because there are wise people there, even in the Jewish community, who are not in full agreement with what Israel is doing now. So
that's true.
It is a matter of time, and we can have the time. And I always ask my audience, imagine yourself after 20 or 30 years from now.
Yes.
What is the future of Israel occupying the land of 8 million Palestinians? They will exceed the number of the Jewish community there. What is the future of a country which is in bad relation with Syria, with Lebanon, with everywhere around it? So I am quite confident that with time we shall win this situation, but this doesn't mean that we shouldn't move every day to help our Palestinian brothers. And by the way, I really envy them, because they stand still in their own country. They didn't give away their land at all, and they are there. They became a reality. Nobody can ignore them.
Right, right, of course. On that note, Your Excellency, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, a former Assistant Foreign Minister, would like to thank you, sir, talking to the Breakfast Show this morning. You have a very good day. And thank you, sir. My pleasure.